report your state trooper.
I'm Trooper Dave Levendusky of the Indiana State Police.
I'm Thomas Seacox, PE 1830,
Okay.
and my appointment date was July 1, 1967, and I retired in February of 2001.
All right.
Now there was a Thomas A. Cox. His PE number was 1717. He came on a year ahead of me.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. I was Big Tom and he was Little Tom when we worked out in Bloomington
I've
Post.
heard people call you Big Town, so that
Right.
makes sense now.
I got accused of a lot of things, but he probably is the one that did most of it.
What made you want to become an Indiana State Trooper?
Well, I was playing basketball one time with a guy by the name of Larry Brown who went on to be a state policeman. And I said, "What are you doing this summer?" And he said he's going to the Indiana State Police. And I thought, well, if they took him, maybe they would take me, you know. So then I started thinking about it, and it just became a bigger desire and a bigger desire, and it was something that I just had to do. I was offered a job at the Bedford Police Department, but I turned that down because, well, I wanted to be by myself more than anything, and to me, the Indiana State Police was the epitome of being a police officer, and that's the reason I wanted to be a state policeman.
What was the hiring process like at that time?
At that time, you put an application in. Actually, you went to a post and got an application, and a lot of people were turned down because, you know, they might be cross-eyed or way too overweight or too old or something like that. But we had 6,500 people fill out an application for the Indiana State Police, and they took 60 of us. And we knew that just 48 was going to graduate from recruit school. So we knew we was going to lose 12, and we didn't want to be one of them 12.
Yeah. How were you notified that you got into academy?
They sent me a letter and told me that to report. I think they gave me 4 days, and I had to have all these gray uniforms, and they had to be sewn a certain way, and we had to go get them, and it was just a lot of hoops to jump through before the academy actually started.
Was the academy held at Bloomington at that point?
At Bloomington, yes. We stayed at what they call the Green Dorm. It was the Air Force Academy, and it was about 5 blocks north of the Commons.
Okay. How long was academy?
The academy was 8 weeks. The first 7 weeks consisted of the law and the whole 9 yards, and the last was the firearms instruction and the first aid.
Tell me a little bit about your firearms instruction.
My firearms instruction, when I first went to the academy, I had never ever shot a pistol before in my life. So the weekend before the academy, a guy gave me a little small 2-inch Bulldog 44 revolver to shoot, and I couldn't hit the inside of a barn with it. And I was scared to death that these 7 weeks would be wasted because I couldn't qualify. But I remember Joe Flynn and what Joe Flynn had to say about shooting, how you watch your sights, how you squeeze the trigger, how you keep a grip on the gun. And I did that, and lo and behold, I went to the academy the first day, and we dry fired the first day, never even got to shoot a gun. But we went through all the positions. Then the second day, we loaded 1 round up for each position. And that afternoon, we loaded 5 rounds up and shot, and I had a 98.2 out of 100. I didn't know if that was good or bad. So the next day, Wednesday morning, I went through and shot a 98.2. Went through the second time, it was a 98.6. And they said, "Tom, you don't get to shoot anymore. You get to go over to the shotgun range and pick up shotgun shells." And I argued with him and said, I've never shot a gun before in my life, and you're saying I'm good and I don't feel comfortable, you know, that I can qualify. And they said, well, you've met our standards, so go pick up shotgun shells. So that's where I ended up.
What rank did you have after you finished shooting those first couple days?
Oh, I placed number 2.
Number 2.
There was a police officer he had been a police officer for 3 years, and he was number 1. He actually left the department and went with the FBI.
Mm-hmm. So you'd never shot before and you ranked number 2?
Never shot a gun, never shot a pistol before in my life.
Mm-hmm. What were some difficult moments during your time at Academy?
One of the most difficult moments I had was when I sat down at the Commons and I had 2 glasses of chocolate milk and they spilled all over me. And I'm sitting there and I'm sick. I don't know what to do. And Dale Strange was sitting next to me. And he said, Tom, just get up and walk out, hold the tray in front of you and walk out, nobody will see you. So I stood up and started walking out and Dale screamed, hey, look at Tom. And I wanted to kill him, but I felt about that high. And that was really an embarrassing moment for me in the recruit school. I'll never forget that.
Where were you first assigned after you went through Academy?
In Versailles, at the Versailles post. There was 6 of us went to Connersville post. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, Connersville was the head post and Versailles was the sub post. Mm-hmm. So we knew that 2 of us was going to Versailles. We didn't know which one it would be. I was hoping to be me because that'd be closer to my home. But there were 6 of us, and we all stayed at the Connersville post upstairs, and they had bedrooms up there, and we stayed there, and we rode with different troopers, and then I got to go to Versailles to stay 2 weeks there, and then I found out right before October 1, before I got my car, that I would be assigned Versailles in Ripley County.
Okay. What were some memorable moments from your first few years as a trooper at Versailles post?
Well, the most thing I remember about the Versailles post, it was really, really a tight group. The guys would literally die for one another. And I mean, they worked hard and they partied hard. And we had a group of guys that was just unbelievable. When somebody hollered for help, you knew that they really, really needed help. Mm-hmm. And back then, when you patrolled the interstate from Shelbyville to the Ohio state line, you was the only policeman out there. Mm-hmm. Everybody at the whole post went to bed, and see, that's before CETA programs or anything. The sheriff, they didn't have any deputy sheriffs out working. And I remember in Shelbyville, I got a call to a murder in Patriot, Indiana, which is on the Ohio River. Mm-hmm. And I was probably 85 miles away from it, and I was the closest police officer on duty. By the time I got down there, they had several other police there, but that was a long way to travel. Mm-hmm.
What was your first car?
My first car was a blue and white, 4-door, 1966 Dodge. That was the prettiest car in the world. It had 18,000 miles on it when I got it, and I was so proud of that car. And it didn't run good, but it was beautiful.
Did you have to share that car with anyone, or was that your car?
No, that was my car.
That was your car.
Commission number was 60. I'm sorry, it was 5383. Mm-hmm. That was a 66 Dodge, and then my 68 Mercury, my commission number was 6404.
What was your favorite car that you had while you were on the department?
The favorite car was my 68 Mercury, commission 6404.
Why did you like that one so much?
It ran 152 miles an hour. That's going downhill with no wind, but it would run.
Were you assigned to any special details while you were on the state police, such as the fair or 500 race, or?
I've been assigned the state fair probably 12 years, mm-hmm. and I was assigned the Indianapolis 500 the first time in 1969, Gate 6, and we got to work. We got to work the Indianapolis 500 parade. Mm-hmm. Then we got a few hours off, and then we had to be back on duty at midnight, and we didn't get off till the race was over and we got home. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about working probably 34 hours in a 48-hour period. Mm-hmm. And we have even had a lot of troopers going home, they'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
It was really and they gave us a hot dog and a Coke in the middle of this.
So it was a rough detail to do.
Really rough. But then the SWAT team was assigned to go on from 4 at night till 4 in the morning before the race on Georgetown Road. And you talk about a terrible detail. I mean, people would throw beer bottles at you, and you got to arrest some people, and they made the mistake of resisting arrest, and we showed them who we were, and actually after about 3 years they quit being near as volatile as they used to be.
So in your first couple years, you joined the pistol team after not having any experience shooting and doing very well in academy. Can you tell me a little bit about joining the pistol team and what that entailed?
Well, in 1969, the Connersville pistol team took the 5 top shooters out of Connersville, Versailles post, both, and I happened to be the number 5 shooter. I know they were Dick McCord and Ernie Wilson and I and John Mall and one other trooper, I can't remember his name, but we went to Jim Theobald, and we went to the district pistol match in Putnamville, and we got to shoot, and I shot a terrible score. I mean, terrible score. That gun was shaking, and I couldn't hit anything because everybody was watching me. But that was in '69. In 1970, I had practiced, talked to Ernie Wilson, and bought a reloader and started reloading my own ammo. And I qualified for the top 5 in the pistol team, became the 5th person on the state police pistol team in 2.5 years.
So that means that you went from one of the top 5 in your district to top 5 within the state police the next year.
Yes.
What did those top 5 go on to do?
Well, in 1970, I got to go to Camp Perry, Ohio, and see a lot of the other matches they went to had already happened before Camp Perry. But I know I went to Illinois State Police had a pistol match, and then we went to Bristol a couple times, and then the Indiana State Police had their invitational, and that invitational was second to none. We had police departments come from at least 30 different areas, from Canada to Mexico, and had 150 competitors, and just a tremendous showing of policemen.
Now, you competed against other police departments. Did you ever compete nationally?
Yes, yes. When you go to Camp Perry, that's the national. That's the national match. In 1970, Joe Flynn, Don Rudder, Bob Mortensen, and Fred Levy, and I were on the state police pistol team. And them guys, I didn't get to shoot, them guys won the Centerfire competition, which is one of 3 competitions at Camp Perry. And it was the first time the Indiana State Police had ever won anything in the teams at Camp Perry. I was very proud to be part of that, even though I was just a coach.
What were some awards that you won during your time on the pistol team?
Well, I'd have to show you my garage. A lot of them are wrapped up, and the trophies mean a lot to you, but after so many years, they just don't mean a whole lot, you know. I've got a few that I'm really, really proud of, and all the ones with the Indiana State Police you can see above my head here are the team matches, and where I won the individual National Police Championship in 1989, and just different awards like that.
And you were on the pistol team until you retired in 2000?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
We had a pistol team I was on it from 1970 to 1999 for 30 years.
Now, going back to the pistol match that's within the state police, what are the competitions that are within the state police pistol team match?
Well, are you talking about within the department?
Yes, the one at Putnamville.
Okay, well then we had the district pistol match, which was at Putnamville, and everybody, actually after 1971, every post sent 5 guys there, and we would shoot 2 what they call a Camp Perry courses, where you shoot 10 shots in 5 minutes, and then you shoot 2 strings of time fire, 5 shots in 20 seconds, and 2 strings of rapid fire, which is 5 shots in 10 seconds. You do that twice, and then they take the top shooters, and that's how they come up with the top 20. And nobody had ever shot a 300. Jerry Wilder had a 299, a 298, and I've had a 298 and a 298. But nobody in my knowledge has ever shot a 300 there.
Were there any prizes that they gave out at those pistol matches?
Oh yeah, we had. I remember Ralph Rogers gave away a gun. I know that the Hillenbrand Industries gave away a gun. Ford Industries gave away a gun. A lot of districts had their representatives. They would bring a gun and be given away to the people from that district, and it used to really be a big match and a big deal to go to.
What was your first promotion you had on the state police?
My first promotion was in April of 1977. I was promoted to public information officer in Bloomington, Indiana. That meant I got to go around and talk to all the little kids in school and got to go to the state fair. And it was really a lot of fun. You met a lot of people, and you tried to do, back then, the reporting on what the state police actually accomplished was nothing compared to what it is today. Today, a trooper stops somebody and gets some meth out of it, and within 30 minutes, it's all over the state, with the way that we have the information disseminated. If a trooper did something as a PIO, I would have to hunt him down and figure out what he'd done and have him write something down and interview him, and then I'd go to the newspapers and try to get the newspapers to print it, and most of the time they wouldn't even print it. It was just old news by the time I got it, 2 or 3 days old.
What were some other things you did while you were a PIO?
One of the most proudest things I've ever done, I was involved in a super duper trooper program. This program, a female teacher from Lakeview Elementary School approached the state police. Of course, they referred her to me, and it's about a program she wanted to do, and it consisted of a person coming to her class for 2 different days, not in uniform. And they actually got to teach the class. She never left the classroom, but you actually got to teach the class. And that's when I first learned the Swat sound. I had no idea what the Swat sound was until I was teaching a 2nd grade class and figured it out. But anyway, the 3rd time you came back, during this time, the kids had to decide what you'd done for a living. And the 3rd time you come back in full uniform. And they were just amazed. And the 4th time you come back, it was in plain clothes, and then the 5th time it was in uniform. And some of these kids come up. I remember one trooper had a Band-Aid on the tip of his finger. And so this 2nd grader thought that he must work at Target because one of the cashiers had a Band-Aid. And there was one other thing. Oh, when Gretchen Newenswander, I think was her name, is Gretchen Morse now. She came, and she was a beautiful redheaded, and she came, and they couldn't believe she was a police officer.
Really?
It really was nice.
Yeah.
Really was nice.
Yeah.
I wish we could do that program now, but I wish it was with 15 and 16-year-olds to show them that a police officer is still a good person, you know.
Yeah. So you said the Swat sound.
That is a sound that they make in the English language, and I'd never heard of it before. But they teach that in the 2nd grade.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that either. What was the most dramatic change you saw during your career to the Indiana State Police?
Dramatic? Well, the most dramatic thing I saw was at the junction of State Road 101 and I-74. I was sent to a scene of a triple fatality where a mother was killed and two babies were killed in this 1966 Pontiac that was exactly like the one I had, a different color. and she hit a puddle of water. The car went out of control. She spun around, and the guardrail went right through the driver's door. Killed her and the baby in the front seat, and it threw a baby out of the left rear window. But there was one child, real small child, that was unconscious in the car. When I got there, the kid was waking up, and I took a pillow and literally put it over his face and pulled him out of the car so he would remember that tragedy that he was within, you know. And I remember the one of the EMS said, well, we can't move this baby, it's dead. And I said, no, you move that baby, let the coroner make that decision at the hospital. Because back then, it was supposed to be against law to move a dead person. Well, you don't know he's dead until somebody pronounced him dead, and the EMS is not going to have that responsibility to do. So I put him in the ambulance and took that, he turned out to be dead. But the one child that lived, he was just lucky, very lucky. But there's one other aspect of that accident. It took me 30 years to figure out what happened. And what happened, I know this from the bottom of my heart, that she had her cruise control set on. And she was driving down the interstate, and she hit a puddle of water, and that cruise accelerated, and that car spun around, and she lost control. And back then, I-64, which had just been in maybe 5 years at the very, well, yeah, 3 years at the very most. And they had a lot of puddles where it rained hard, and they hadn't got rid of the water yet, and she hit one of them puddles. That, to me, that's one of the most tragic things I've ever been in. The second thing is when I was driving through Bedford, and I looked up to my left, and here's a man on fire, completely on fire. He's walking down the steps of a house, and I can't believe it. I'm looking for a movie set and cameras and everything, and there's none. So I called the post, and I screamed, I got a man on fire on West 16th Street. And I ran up there and grabbed him. He kept saying, my God, what did I do? What did I do? And this fire was coming from his crotch all the way up 2 foot above his head. And I grabbed him, tackled him, threw him on the ground, rolled him over, got most of the fire out except for he had J.C. Penney pants on, and they had rubber zippers. And the rubber was on fire on the zipper, and I was trying to put it out, and the zipper would stick to my hand, and I had to flip it off. And I finally got the fire out, and the EMTs, which generally come up and take about a half hour and put all the gauze, and they put him on a gurney, and he was gone. And the man lived for 5 days. It had turned out to be self-inflicted. But at that time, I didn't know that.
When you first started on the department, what was the uniform like?
We had one patch on the right side, and we told everybody that we could always tell left and right by looking at our one patch there. But we finally decided to go to 2 patches, and we went to 2 lights on top of the car, and that always did distinguish the Indiana State Police from everybody, because most of the police departments back then had 2 lights on their cars, and I wanted to stay with one, and I protested to Colonel Dillman, and he just told me to shut up, and I got shut up. So we ended up with 2 patches and 2 lights on our cars.
Was there anything about the uniform you didn't like when you were on the department?
It was hot. Now, we was fortunate enough, we had short sleeves, but the pants mostly was wool, and we wore Stetson hats in the summer, and they demanded for that hat to be on, 100 degrees, and no matter what you were doing, and it was just hot. But as far as looks, the Indiana State Police uniform at that time was the sharpest uniform of any police officer.
So after you were a PIO, what position did you hold with the Indiana State Police?
Well, I was called a specialist 4. It wouldn't be a sergeant; it would be a sergeant stripe, but it was kind of filled in, and it was gold instead of had the black and white stripes. Called a specialist 4.
And what did you do with that position?
That was The PIO position.
PIO one?
Yes. Mhm.
What did you hold after the PIO position?
Well, that's when I went to interview for being a pilot.
Pilot. How did you get interested in flying?
I was at the post one night, and the radio operator, Terry Hudson, he said he's going to sell his portion of the airplane. I said, what kind of plane you got? And he told me. And he told me who all was in the club. There was three other people in the club. And I said, I'll buy that. He said, oh, you wouldn't? I said, well, yeah, I'll buy it right now. He said, don't you need to talk to your wife? And I said, yeah, if that makes you feel better, I will. So I called Martha, and I said, Martha, I'm going to buy a fourth of an airplane. And of course, she said, which fourth do you get? Not knowing, that it would be shared. And so that's how I got into flying, by buying an airplane, sight unseen. That night I went to the hangar and locked the hangar door, but I wasn't smart enough to get the airplane. I thought the key was for the airplane that wasn't. So that's how I became interested in flying. And I ended up with 450 hours in that airplane that I'd paid for myself.
So you took lessons, and then a position opened up on the department.
Yeah.
And you applied for it.
Well, yeah, and that's true. And I got and I got beat out. And so Larry Furness and I was talking in Chicago at a PIO conference, and he told me how close I'd came to getting that actual position, and told me if a position ever opened again that I should put in for it. Well, within 2 months, Joe Foster from Seymour retired, helicopter position. So I put in for it, and there was 11 of us. And before the interview, I went down to Sellersburg and paid a man $1,500 to give me 10 hours flight time in a helicopter. And he was really nice, and he had been an Army instructor for 30 years. And he wrote me out a nice little letter saying that I was one of the best students that he ever had, and all that garbage. And I took it in front of the review board, and I ended up getting the job.
So what were some interesting things that happened while you were a pilot?
Well, I had to go to Cave City one time, I think, and I didn't know where it was at. So I took off and just followed I-65, and I knew Cave City was on I-65, and I was able to find Cave City. But another thing, one of the scariest things ever done was they told me that we had a shooting. We had 2 kids here in southern Indiana decided to start killing people. And they killed a woman in Davis County, and one of the guy that did the killing, he told his buddy, he said, I've killed somebody, you have to kill somebody. So they stopped. Here's the poor Amish guy driving a wagon down the road, so they stopped and shot him. So they take off, and they get in a big gun battle with some farmers over in Illinois, and I had to take one of the investigators to Illinois. And I said, where am I going? They said, well, we really don't know, but you just go west from Vincennes. This is 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, well, how do I know? And they said, well, it's a football field. We'll have the lights on. So I continued west, and I finally seen this football field, and was tickled to death to see it, because I didn't know how far I had to go. Just had 4 hours of fuel on board. I landed there and dropped the investigator off, and then I came back home. But that was really interesting when you're a pilot and you're flying someplace you don't know where you're going.
Did you ever work any events as a pilot?
I worked a lot of Kentucky Derby. The Kentucky Derby is really a big thing on I-65, because these people, they're going to a horse race, and for some reason they want to race their cars going down. And I remember a trooper from Seymour, I got there a little bit early, and he called me and told me he was on location, but he said, I don't want anybody unless they're 100 mile an hour or better. And I said, the next 6 cars coming at you right now are running 100 mile an hour. And he stopped them and arrested all 6 of them. But now we probably would make, in 3 hours, we'd probably make 300 arrests. We had the captain and lieutenant. They actually got out on the holiday and did some work. They would flag the cars into the rest area, and the first sergeant had a little yellow sticky note, and he would put down 78 and a 55 and stick it on this car, and they would go over in the parking lot, and the trooper would walk up to him and said, well, I see where you was running 78 and a 55, and fill the affidavit out, and that's how we did it, mass production. And there's probably 20 to 25 troopers there working.
So from the helicopter, what kind of equipment did you use to do speed timing?
First, we had a stopwatch, and then we had a chart to go to, but I convinced them to put a fast car in my helicopter, and I set it on a quarter mile or 880 foot, not a quarter mile, but whatever 880 foot is, and I use VASCAR in my helicopter. Really helped me because I could just hit the buttons and look and see what the speed was, then go to the next guy.
Did you do anything else while you were a helicopter pilot? Any other interesting tasks that they put you to?
Well, they come up, as a helicopter pilot, they come up because California did this. We decided we had to do it. And we had to insert men, the SWAT team, on buildings and take them off of buildings. And I even had to participate and let another man fly, and I had to stand on the side of the helicopter and do the same thing the SWAT team did. And it wasn't the smartest thing we ever done, but we did it. And we inserted a lot of scuba divers in the water.
What position did you hold that made you most proud?
In the SA policeman, a trooper.
Just a trooper?
Absolutely.
Why is that something that you're so proud of?
Well, when I was a kid, and they would come in the restaurant and they would be sitting there and drinking their coffee, and they looked so proud and magnificent, and you know, you wouldn't even speak to them because they was a policeman, you know. But then as it went on, I learned that they were just people like me. I mean, Larry Eichert and Sam Cruz and Jim Graves. Jim Graves, he just died here just a few months ago, and he told me that he always had dreams of going out that night and arresting Tom Cox just to say he got it done. I wasn't probably one of the best boys when I was young, but I changed a little bit and became a state policeman.
What was a very difficult case or situation that you were in while you were a trooper?
I don't know about difficult. The first time I ever testified was at a murder in Patriot that we talked about. And I had to testify. I'd been on 2 years. And the jury sat probably 2 foot in front of you. I could literally reach my foot out and touch a jury member. And I mean, that's close. And they were asking you questions. And of course, a defense attorney's got to ask questions. He's got to protect his client the best he can. And he asked questions that were kind of absurd, and you tried to answer them the best you could. But it was nervous, and I'd just been on 2 years, and I didn't want to blow the case, you know. But that was very, very hard to do. But it really assisted me in the future because testifying became very easy. If you tell the truth, it's very easy to do.
Did you ever have any difficult stops that you made while you were a trooper?
Well, I stopped this one guy. I had a truck driver, and I run a 1028, 1029 on him, and he came back, and he was had been arrested for willful murder in Kentucky, and they told me that I needed to arrest him, and they want to know if I was signal 48. That means, is he in my car? And I said, yes. So he heard all this traffic, and I told him, I said, you know, you got one way to go or the other. If you want to do it the easy way, you turn around, put your hands behind you, and I handcuff you. And he did that. But for about 20 or 30 seconds, it got pretty hairy, you know.
Is there a specific case that you worked on that sticks with you?
Probably a 5-year-old boy here in Lawrence County. His stepfather picked him up by the hair and hit him in the face. And I was able to get a warrant and arrest him. That made me feel pretty good.
Yeah.
Made me feel pretty good.
Were you involved in any specialty teams while you were a trooper?
I was one of the first SWAT team members,
Okay.
1975. Had a guy by the name of Ray. I think he was an FBI agent, wonderful man. He took 20 people, and we went to the Camp Atterbury for a week, and we did everything. We did insertions, we did rappelling, we did spider crawling off of a building, we did shooting. John Hatfield and I turned out to be the best snipers of all of them. And really the rappelling is what I hated. I was always afraid of heights. And we had to climb up this 60-foot tower that was wood, and it was been held together by ropes that were put there in 1942. And there was no ladder to climb up. You had to figure out the way up there. And then we rappelled off the top of it. Well, I'm sitting there, and I'm probably the fifth in line, and this guy by the name of Jim Wallace, he held his hand up and said, I've done this, I do this for part-time for the fun of it. So they put a little D-ring on him and hooked that up, and he went off the side of that building and went inverted just like that. And he is screaming, help me, help me. Well, I went from fifth in line to 20th in line. And I'm sitting back there and I'm debating, I've either got to climb down this thing or go off that rope, and both of them are bad. And this one sergeant from Lowell, he said, Tom, aren't you nervous? And I said, no, I'm not nervous, I'm not going. And finally they got Wallace straightened up, and some people was able to rappel. Now we had D-rings, they didn't lock. You put the rope around there twice. Well, I went over the side and I looked down, and one of my loops had came out of my D-ring. So I'm sitting there holding on 60 foot, and they're putting this loop around my D-ring again so I can rappel. And I am petrified. I did it, I got a check mark. I think I rappelled 3 times to get a check mark, and that's all I ever did. But now John Hatfield and I was in Evansville, and he dared me to rappel off a 100-foot tower there in Evansville. We split a rope. In other words, there were 2 ropes. He took one rope and I took another rope, and we went off the 100-foot tower. I did that one time, and I didn't want to do it anymore.
How long were you part of the SWAT team?
Almost 11 years.
11 years. What made you choose being on that team?
The reason I became a SWAT team wasn't because I could run and jump, and it's because I could shoot. I figured that they really would need a good sniper, and there was a position for a sniper there. And I told everybody, hey, if you want to beat me as a sniper, I'll be glad. If you beat me, I'll leave the team. Nobody could beat me. I'm not bragging. John Hatfield and I were really equal when it comes to shooting a rifle. We were both really good.
Are there any memorable experiences from your time as a SWAT team member?
Well, we went to Oakland City. They had a man kill a woman, a bartender, because she pointed her finger at him. He said, don't you point your finger at me again or I'll kill you. And she pointed her finger at him. He pulled a .44 Magnum out and shot her. Well, he goes running this house, and they call us. And we go down there, and Ron Newton is in charge, and we're getting ready to go in the house, and we break a window in the front, and we go in the back door, and we're searched the whole lower floor. This guy's not there. So we start upstairs, and Newton says, anybody got any ideas? And I said, I got one. Can I scream his name out and ask him to give up? Newton said, sure. So I screamed this guy's name out. I said, give up, we're staying in the outside police. We're coming up there, and we're coming up there to kill you. Because I want to go home, you know, and nothing. So we go upstairs, and we search the complete upstairs, and he's not there. Well, the house had, it was kind of a hip style house, and it had a little bitty door over here that went out to the hip side, and we looked in that door, and this guy is laying back there with a mattress over him, but his feet sticking out. So we get in there. There's not room for me to get in there. Everybody's got shotguns on him. And of course, I tell John Hatfield, I said, John, if he moves, kill him. John said, okay, I will. But little Tom Cox goes up and pulls the mattress real slow off this guy. And he's laying there with a 44 Magnum on him, and he's scared to death. So little Tom reaches over and gets the gun. He lets it go, and we arrest the guy. But that was very, very tense moment, very tense. Because, you know, people talk about killing somebody, but when you come down to the art of actually killing somebody, it takes a lot. It takes a lot.
During your time as a trooper, have you ever met any interesting people, such as celebrities or politicians or anything like that?
Oscar Robinson's one night. I helped Oscar Robinson that one night. He slid off the road on I-74, and I helped him out. He's really, really a super nice person. He was playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, and I believe, and really a nice person. Of course, being the PIO, I met Roy Clark. I can't even tell you about Roy Clark. They're the best. Johnny Cash, June Carter, the Beach Boys, REO Speedwagon, if you remember them, and Mac Davis. George, another trooper, and I was on the stage with Mac Davis one night, and probably 30 or 40 different, really, Olivia Newton-John. She came there and she told Dick Post, she said, no, I don't want anybody near me. And he said, it's okay, ma'am, we've had big stars here before.
Now, were these people that came to perform in Bloomington?
No, at the State Fair.
State Fair, okay. Yeah. Are there any other stories you share often with fellow officers or other police officers that you meet?
Not really. Bob Kuchenberg played for the Miami Dolphins, number 64, I believe. He was around 110 mile an hour coming down State Road 37, and I stopped him. And he big boy, I mean big boy. And I got his license out and said Bob Kuchenberg, and he said, that's right, I played for the Miami Dolphins. And I said, really? I said, Kansas City Chiefs, my favorite team. And so I arrested him. And then I got word that he wanted me and my wife to go to Cincinnati when they played, and he would give me free tickets and a free meal, and I told him to just pay the fine. I didn't want that. But he was a nice person about it. He just thought that he was so important that he could contact his friends and they could get him out of it, but they couldn't.
Do you have any other funny stories or weird things that have happened to you while you were a trooper?
I probably do. Right now, I can't remember any of them.
You're okay.
I remember, I got to tell you one thing. There was a man driving up this road, say Road 37, and this has probably been 1975, 76. And he was in a 53 Chevrolet pickup truck, and he was going to see his wife. He would run out of gas, and he had this thing in second gear, and he was using the starter to make it move. And we stopped him, and he told us his plight. The woman was in a nursing home. And so Larry Brown and I got gas for him. Larry drove his truck back to his house in Orleans. And the family came out and said, Tom, are there anything you can do? And I said, sure, I can suspend him, which I really couldn't. But I suspended him to within the city limits of Orleans. And the woman said, well, we live 2 blocks out of the city limits. Can you make it a 2-block area? And I said, sure. So I suspended his license from 2 blocks from around the city of Orleans. But I signed Larry Brown's name to it. I wasn't about to sign my name to it. About 4 months later, this lawyer called Larry Brown and wanted to know how in the world he could suspend this guy. And Larry called me, and he said, you signed my name to that. And I said, well, Larry, I'm not stupid enough to sign my own name to that. That was one of the funny moments for me.
That is a good one. What are some things you learned about yourself during your time as a trooper?
Well, I learned that the most important thing is dignity. You can't lose dignity. You can give it away, but you give away dignity, you don't lose it. If you want to keep your self-esteem and everything, you have to keep it yourself. People can't take that away from you. And the Indiana State Police gave me a lot of pride. They gave me a career, not a job, a career, something that I was very proud of. The Indiana State Pistol Team gave me opportunities to go from Florida to Kansas to Canada to Virginia to shoot that I would never have had taken before. And I'm very proud of that.
What did you learn about others in general while you were a state trooper?
Well, I learned a lot that you worry about your loved ones because you see so much happen to everybody else. You worry about your wife, you worry about your kids, you think about them when they're driving a car, you see an ambulance and say, oh my, is that going after one of my children or my wife? And you learn about respect for health and life in itself, more than anything, really.
How did the world change during your time as a trooper?
You know, it has changed, but it's remained the same. We walked to the IU campus in 1967, and they would throw bottles at us, they'd throw cans at us. These students rebelling, and it was bad back then. If you remember 1968, I believe there were 6 people killed at the Democratic Convention. And people hated police back then like they hate police now. And it's just a different scenario. But it's a cycle. It will get real bad and then come back to neutral and then get a little bit better and then go back to bad again. But it changed, but it remains the same. Here I'm being very philosophical and I'm not smart enough to be philosophical.
What do you want people to know about the Indiana State Police?
Well, people like Bob Gillespie, people that John Hatfill, that I knew personally, and that they gave their lives for something, and that was in the Indiana State Police. To me, the Indiana State Police is, I can't say a notch above. I don't say that. We're in I don't know how to explain it. It's just something that you feel when you put that uniform on. When somebody wants to fight me, Tom Cox, they can fight me. But when I got that uniform on, they're fighting the Indiana State Police. That's a whole different ballgame. And I was braver with that uniform on than I would be without it.
Do you have any words of wisdom for young troopers or people that are interested in becoming troopers?
Love your family and be careful, watch the hands. The hands is what hurt you. If you can't see their hands, you're in trouble. You see all these shows, let me see your hands, let me see your hands. That's very important. Because that hand, you know, when a record driver comes up to you and said, what do you want me to do with this gun? And you go back to jail and said, who had the gun? The guy said, he was going to kill you, but you wouldn't come up in the window far enough. Because I could always see this guy's hands, and he couldn't get back and get the gun. So my words of wisdom is take care of your loved ones and watch your hands.
Is there anything else that you wanted to share with us? Any other stories you can think of?
Well, I would like to say that Jerry Wilder is the best shot, was the best shot. Jerry and I pushed each other, and when Jerry and I both made the pistol team, it made a difference in the pistol team. We brought it a step higher than it was in the past. And I'm not degrading anybody. I'm just saying Jerry was in a class of his own, and Jerry brought me up to that class, or close to that class.
Thank you so much.
Good.
We really appreciate
Good.
it.
I hope you can do something, the Indiana State Police pistol team, you can see that it was my whole life.
Yeah.
From 1970 on, everything has been involved with the pistol team.